Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies. It's the new Duke, Maryland, Lauren. We got Duke, Virginia in the ACC championship game tonight. Let's go.
Pray for your mentions right now, because if there's anything Virginia fans don't like, it's being called Maryland.
Yeah, well, they kind of are like Maryland because they will get violent if you question St. Tony's coaching style and how they go about winning.
Yeah, just indignant. Come on, they're too frou-frou to go violent. Come on now.
Okay.
Although I haven't seen a lot of it firsthand. I have certainly heard some things about like people being shocked at how nasty like frat guys in ties can get at football games. I have definitely heard that in the past. But yeah, no, clearly. And this one Duke clearly is just as involved in, since they clearly almost won the ACC share of the title, if not for Virginia having the gall to steal an entire basketball game from them. Just the absolute gall.
See, and this is why.
Steal it. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, did it just send it? It sent it to overtime. It didn't actually.
It did.
Oh, and also they would have had to make the free. Okay, I'm sorry. Wait.
So I think thank you for bringing this up because this is why I started this conversation out the way that I did. Duke and Virginia. Look, you got Duke and Carolina. As we've discussed, the dynamics of the rivalry go through their ups and downs, and as we've been a year removed from what happened last year between Duke and Carolina, the whole Coach K thing is going to live on forever. It's going to be brought up and everything else. But I feel like I admit this might be galaxy brain, Lauren. Totally admit that this might be galaxy brain on my part. But now that we're a year removed from it and we can reassess where things have gone, the way it ended for Coach K specifically might have been the best thing to happen for Duke and John Shire going forward, okay? And I feel like, I don't want to say Duke has been liberated. I feel like Duke
liberated?
It's like, you know what it is? There's an old Run the Jewels line. You're familiar with Run the Jewels, you're a rap group. And the line basically goes, you can't crush me, blankety blank, I'm already dirt. Okay? Essentially saying, like, what more can you can't hurt us anymore. You can't hurt me anymore.
That's what I say about the Panthers.
This is fair. So Duke is kind of taking on this attitude of like, psh, what's it care? You're just going to give us the Caleb Love shot in our mentions anyway. So screw it. Let's let it fly. Let's go. And that's where you got like the Oreo dunk tweet. And that's how you got the matters closed, but hey, we could have been co-ACC champions.
Okay, I
called that correctly.
I liked the Oreo tweet. I was surprised to see it, but that one I thought was funny. I did like it. And I didn't dislike it.
So my question is, does Duke ever do that under Coach K?
Absolutely not. And in fact, like, I know Duke people that literally look down their nose if they would see Carolina send a tweet like that. If State, certainly, they'd be like, we're Duke. We don't need to do that. You know what? I actually have a theory that's different because that was one reason it stunned me. Because to me, when you're Duke basketball, like you don't need to do that because often your season hangs on far more than the outcome of one game. And theirs did, and it will again. You know what I mean? And so it was surprising to see them look back like that. And it's like, yeah, you also lost by 1 at Boston College. Are we going to talk about that one or like? I mean, the point is the margin is always close all the way around. Like a call here, there, whatever. I mean, look at Miami last night. Isaiah Wong picks up foul number 3, which didn't seem to have a lot of contact. Then 4 in close sequence, the ball appears to go off Miami. On replay, it looks like it actually went off Duke. They gave it to Miami. But that didn't matter. There was still plenty of time left for Miami to recover. They couldn't. They gave a good fight. Duke earned the win. That's kind of the point. Things happen during the game. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're bad. You roll
They're just
with
tweets.
It. But,
they're just tweets, Lauren.
Oh, well, here's my theory about tweets, though. This is my theory. I think Duke likes not being liked, and they miss it because people like John Shire. I have heard this from countless rival fans that are like, I like him. I'm trying not to. I can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like,
So
they want to have the hatred for him that they have for Coach K. So Duke's social team's like, you know what? We got this.
Hey man,
Why
let it
don't we
rip.
be
Like I said, let it
contestants?
rip.
Like,
Let it rip. And that it's funny you say that John Shire is likable because I've been saying that all season. It's not specific to John Shire, but it's like if you strip Duke off the
oh,
jersey
totally. And everybody
and
was
you
like,
watch this team, people would love this Duke team. It's
people
eight
don't hate
dudes.
them like they did. They just don't.
No, but and Coach K was the avatar for that. But if you
Yes.
watch this Duke team, you see 8 dudes who all know their role. They're not
And
going
they're
to
fun.
overwhelm you. They're not going to overwhelm you. They're not like the monster in the NCAA tournament, but they know what they are. I've been saying this for 3 months now for this Duke team, and it's only going to pay off if they actually can go out there and do it. And I asked John Shire this last night after the game. It's not lost on me that on their path to the ACC tournament and the team that they're facing, that they're beating teams that got them along the way, right? Like Miami crushed them at home. They took care of business. NC State was like a marker in the season of, you see how bad we were at PNC Arena? All right, here's where we're at. And they did it to Virginia Tech at home after they lost at Castle. And then now they have an opportunity to do it against Virginia in what was a controversial ending. I'm not saying anything that's wild here with the controversial ending. But, you know, I say this with self-awareness matters. So I'm going to call out our friend Caroline Darney, okay? Caroline Darney is a big Virginia person. She's now at For the Win. And we were having dinner at the ACC meal, and it was like I kind of poked her because it's like you gave them exactly what they wanted. They did a single one-off tweet, and then you created this entire tweet storm about it and wrote about it on For the Win. So there's a little bit of like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe you're spending this much time, well, actually, Duke. So I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. It's hilarious.
I do to stick up for Caroline a little bit because I think she's taken a lot of unjustified flack for this. Flack that, like, maybe a man wouldn't take, but whatever. That's what she does. She writes about tweets. Like, she writes about things that happen in social media for all of the teams. And I think we can all agree, based on what we had always previously thought of Duke, that it's shocking. I think if, you know, when you see the tweet come out, you're like, holy crap. Like, that is not on brand for what we know of Duke basketball.
My only issue with Caroline, honestly, is the amount of times she's seen Top Gun Maverick.
It's okay. We've had to get through a dispute between us where I said I wouldn't watch the Oscars again if that movie won Best Picture, and I'm actually slightly offended it's nominated. Just slightly. I get it. I know what they're doing. I get why they did it. But I mean, like, it's basically a glorified remake of the original. So I don't know why.
Yeah. Look, like I said when the movie came out, I saw it twice. When the movie came out, I'm like, any scene that featured a jet was pretty sweet. Any scene that didn't feature a jet, you could just skip. Anyway, I skipped the majority of Virginia Clemson because I knew that was going to be some sickos basketball. And sure enough,
it was a good game.
It delivered. It delivered some sickos basketball. Brad Brownlow even got teed up because he wasn't happy with one of the calls that went a particular way.
Listen, you know what Clemson wasn't happy with? Illegal screening. That's what I noticed because I noticed that like you could hear Brad Brownell at one point on television apparently just yell, "That's illegal!"
Yep.
About one of the screens. Chase Hunter talked about it after.
Chase Hunter talked about it. Yeah.
They've all said like that's not why. I mean, you hear that about. That's one thing you definitely hear about Virginia after teams play them is that they're not happy because they run you off so many already that like if you're getting run into illegal ones on top of it, I get why it's so frustrating. They are what people don't understand about Virginia's offense, which I could probably fill books with what they don't understand about it. But part of what they don't understand is like they want to tire you out on that end as much as possible. They want that. The reason they use the shot clock is they're running you around constantly. Do you see how they move? That might seem foreign to some people in the area when you watch teams move offensively. However, that's what it's supposed to look like. You're supposed to be moving constantly. And that means people are chasing you. And that means you're running into screens constantly. They got guys that can deliver a lot of force on those. It's painful.
Yeah, no, I understand. You and I are on the same page when it comes to Virginia. Watching Virginia is almost like how people used to talk about going to hockey games. If you watch it on TV, it's not going to work for you. But when you watch it in person, you actually end up being pretty impressed by how it all plays out. I actually have more of an issue with Clemson than I do with Virginia. I know
Yeah.
what Virginia is trying to do. Half the times, I don't know what Clemson's trying to do, other than like play you in a rock fight. Which gets us to a larger conversation about the ACC going into Selection Sunday. And Clemson has swept NC State, and they've done it like by spanking them, okay, in those 3 games. It's just a
I
bad
don't.
matchup. What's that?
It's still mind-boggling to me. Like
It's a matchup issue that has presented itself between Brad Brownell and Kevin Keats. Number one, number two. As I said the other night after that loss, State basically is counting on we're going to play the same way and hope the shots fall. Well, they didn't, and you can't keep doing it against Clemson specifically. So now,
yeah.
with this loss, it's opened up a really, really weird conversation when you look at some of the bracketology. And I don't pretend to be a bracketologist. I don't have the brain bandwidth to look at team sheets every day, try to seed things and everything else. I basically go on the NCAA tournament on field. But the problem is we don't do that anymore with the NCAA tournament. We basically make everything some sort of where are you slotted in the net. We're obsessed with net. So a funny thing happens yesterday. Ohio State wins in the Big Ten tournament. I think they're off to the semifinals. And that created another Q1 win.
I was going to ask, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it created a Q1 win for North Carolina. That would give North Carolina, I think, one more Q1 win than NC State right now. And then you got Clemson, who swept by a wide margin a team at NC State that a lot of people widely view as in for the NCAA tournament. And we start getting caught up in all these things without looking at the totality of the picture. So here's the best way that I can break this down and why North Carolina's on the bubble and NC State seems in for a lot of places. Ohio State objectively is not good, okay? They're not good. And we get so caught up in an arbitrary what is a Q1, what isn't. It is a sorting tool. The net is a sorting tool. And what ends up happening is that North Carolina ends up being put in a pool of other teams that are like them, and then they throw them up on the board, and then they start to determine who's worthy of the tournament and who's not. And the same thing happens for NC State. NC State's not in a position like they were a couple years ago where their strength of schedule was abysmal. That's actually where Clemson is, on top of having a bunch of quote-unquote bad losses. It's a lot about what the teams that you beat or the teams that you've played have done, not so much what you've done. And I'm not saying that it's easy to understand. I'm simply saying it is a committee at the end of the day. And the humans will look at the sorting tools, break everybody out, and then have individual conversations. It happened to Wake Forest last year. It happened to NC State a couple years ago because they were atrocious strength of schedule, and that's ultimately what kept them out. I think what's going to keep North Carolina out is when you look at their Q1 wins, what is the quality of those Q1 wins? And if you're sitting here touting Ohio State as some sort of, well, see, that's a Q1, that's a Q1. The Buckeyes are bad. Look at their record. Look at Ken Palm and see the bloodbath that is all the red in conference play. You can't sit here and tell me that makes you worthy of the NCAA tournament when you haven't done much with your Q1 opportunities. Rant over.
Here's my thing with all of that. I think North Carolina has something that works both in their favor sometimes and obviously against them. Sure. They are widely viewed. Okay? That works against them, I think, at least a little bit in that room. Because I do, if we're being real, okay, if you look blindly at their resume, there are a lot of teams they should be in the tournament over, in my opinion. For real. Like the ones that we're talking about anyway, that are like on the bubble. That's specifically what I mean. Like, that's where I have the hard time is like, okay, yeah, I agree. This doesn't look like a tournament team in the traditional sense of the word. You compare them against some of the teams we're discussing, though, and I'm kind of like, wait, I don't understand why they're not a tournament team over X or Y.
No, I got you.
Clemson, and I'm not saying that they should make it. I would have no issue if they don't. They've had plenty of chances. They don't. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying based on the teams you see in the conversation, you're like, wait, why? I don't want that team in either. And Clemson has the opposite problem. Okay? Because when you look at Clemson's resume on paper, you're like, is this team on drugs? Okay? But when you watch Clemson, right? Yeah. They do look the part. They look the part of a tournament team, especially the way they're playing right now. But do people watch Clemson as well? Has the committee as a whole paid as much attention to the way Clemson is playing right now as they are North Carolina? Probably, just hypothetically, right? And so that's where I think it works for and against them. State, I think, has probably had a few more eyeballs on it lately in a good way. So I think that should help State too. People see this team and it looks like a tournament team, but Clemson basketball is just one of those teams that people aren't going to like seek out to watch on television on purpose. They're just not. And so if you aren't watching them, you don't know that they look the part. You look at their resume, you see they lost to Louisville less than a month ago by 10. Okay, so like we can talk State matchup problems all we want. I realize that they exist, but you can't tell me they can beat State by like an average of 30 points 3 times and they go to Louisville and lose. What?
I think you just kind of inadvertently highlighted the biggest issue with the ACC. If none of these teams lost to Louisville, Clemson, maybe we're not having these conversations.
Or like a Florida State, hypothetically. You can't lose a game like that. There were teams that went up to Boston, Virginia. Like, how does Virginia, come back up against Carolina and look great? They just lost to Boston College, a team that Carolina crushed the night before by 15. I mean, none of it makes any sense, right? Like, none of it is logical or makes sense. Really, the only resume that, like, makes sense in terms of, like, beating who you should and losing to who is better than you or whatever, or, like, good opponents is Carolina's. Even though their season has made no sense. So
there's also the entire conversation around Carolina in that
State doesn't have a single bad loss. State has 0 bad losses, actually.
No, they don't.
0.
But the funny thing about Carolina, though, does that look like a team that even wants to be in a tournament?
That's the thing. That's where I'm saying, like, the fact that people are visually watching Carolina right now is why no one will, like, look at their resume and go, wow, they really got screwed. I don't think anyone would think that.
They, like, sometimes it's like, you never know. Let's go to the tournament, see what happens.
Right.
Carolina's just like, can we just not? Because we're over it. We're very much over it. And that's been the general impression that I've had about North Carolina. They're just generally over it. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. We are going to do one last ACC Panic Room tomorrow evening following Selection Sunday. We'll see how many ACC teams get in. We'll recap the ACC championship game between Virginia and Duke, and then we'll start obsessing over the Panthers trade. Lauren, we'll see who the Panthers are going to take with the number 1 pick in the draft after they gave up everything to get it.
People are like, this is good, Brownlow. This is a good thing. Me, I'm like, I have to trust people to make decisions associated with the Carolina Panthers in a year where there is no Cam Newton.
Yeah.
And you're asking me to be okay with that.
Yeah,
based on the last few
congratulations. Years. Congratulations to the Carolina Panthers. They paid a heavy price just for the privilege to guess. We'll see if they guess correct.
Have they guessed wrong before? Did I miss it? What?
No, not the Panthers.
They've got a really good quarterback track record. Oh, God.
All right, let's go wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. We'll see you guys Sunday night.